All right, now welcome back to the second part of the third part of the final project. I'm excited to get this done and we are going to finish it up and have a final project all completed. So let's get started. So now that we have this post, what can we do with it? Well, let's go ahead and say like we normally do. Let's render all the posts to the page. So post.find, and we're just going to find all the posts. So .execute and then .then, and it's going to give us all the posts. And we do this all the time. So let's just go ahead and grab this res.render all posts. And along with this, however, we also want to pass it something from here. We want to pass it the ID of the post. So let's say we're also going to pass a post ID, and that's going to be post.id. So we are passing it the posts like normal, and we are also passing it a post ID, which is the ID of that post that they want to edit. And then at the very end, we're going to say .catch, and then if there's any sort of error, we just want to res.render index with an error of there was an error getting the edit form. Okay, so oops, comma there, and save it. And there we go. So let's go ahead and go to the browser. And now we reload this with all our posts. We hit edit. Okay, well now we see it loaded. It successfully reloaded our page, but everything looks exactly the same. Well, why is that? Well, let's go over to index.pug, and we'll see here that when we loop through our posts, we render each post exactly the same. However, we know that there's going to be one post that we want to look different. When we click edit, we don't want this to look like a normal post. We want this to now turn into a form to edit this post. So how do we do that? Well, in here, as we loop through each post, let's test to see if that post that we're looping through at the current moment is the one that was passed to us. So we can do that because we know that in index.js, the post ID is being sent to us. So we're going to say for each post in the post, we're going to say if post ID. So first of all, if there's even a post ID, and then also, and if that post ID equals post.id, then we want to render things one way, else we want to render things the normal way. So the normal way, we want to render each post like this, unless we're also being passed a post ID, and that post ID equals the ID of the post that we're currently iterating through. Then we want to render it differently. How do we want to render it? We want to render it as a form. And this form, remember, is going to have the action of edit post. However, this time, it will have that method of post. So you remember how we have the post on edit post and the get on edit post? Well, we send the get request by hitting edit, and now we are going to send this post request on edit post by submitting this form that we're going to be rendering here. So how do we do this? Well, first of all, let's add our inputs. So we're going to have an input, and it's going to be a hidden input, and you can probably guess what we're going to put in here. We're just going to call it post ID, and its value is going to be the post.id. So that's so that we can access that the ID of that post again, and the user doesn't have to type that in or anything. It's just going to be a hidden input that we supply. So now let's do our other inputs with form groups, and really these are going to look very similar to all this up here. So I'm just going to copy this, paste it down here, and now change some things. So instead of title for these, we are going to have, let's see, I'm going to edit all of them at once. We are going to have edited title. So there we go, changed all those. Now, instead of a placeholder, we want to have a value because we don't want to give them an empty form that they have to refill out. We want to give them a form that's already filled in with the current values that we have stored in the database. So we'll say post.title. So the title input is going to be filled already with the current title, and they can update that if they want to. And then we're going to do the same thing with the body, but remember this is a text area and we need to add some rows, and this needs to be the post message that we want to fill it in with, and that should be message. This should be body because we're telling the user it's the body, but we're calling it the message in the back end. Message and message. So there we go. We have edited message and edited title. Now we have a button that is going to, we don't need to do anything with that. And we're not going to be submitting the post. We're going to be updating the post. So, and we want to make this button probably small, I think, to fit inside there pretty nicely. So there we go. We have that. So if we have a particular post we want to edit, it's going to render like this. And if we don't, it's going to render the default form like this. So save it. Let's go ahead and check this out. Okay, inconsistent indentation. Okay, so we have an error without indentation at the form group by edited message. That probably happened when we copied and pasted. Let's go ahead and check it out. Yeah, so right there. Actually, all of these we want. There we go. So let's reload that. There we go. So let's hit edit, and nothing changes. Why is that? Okay, so we're saying if post ID and if, oh, that's because post ID when we pass it in is an integer, so we have to say toString. So this is nifty to show you. You can do things like this in Pug, little JavaScript functions like this. It'll turn this integer that we passed in of post ID into a string and compare it to the string that it's looping through here and compare those. And there we go. Now this is a post. However, not loving the way this looks. And that is because this is just a form, and I think it'd be better if we kept it in the format of a card. So let's go ahead and make this a card, indent all this, save it, and now it is in a card, but let's move that down. We need to give it a margin. So let's say the margin on the top should be 2. Check that out. There we go. I think it should also have some padding all around of, let's say, 4. Check that out. Oh, dot padding all around of 4. Check that out. There we go. And let's move that over to the other side, I think. So right now, so let's say text right. There we go. That's on the other side now. I think that looks a little better. Now you'll notice our body is empty. Why is our body empty? Well, I did this wrong. In a text area, you can't have a value. What we would do is we would say this text area is going to equal the post.message. And there we go. So now we have it. So now if we hit update post, not found. Okay, so let's finish this up by creating the post method on the edit post route. So we're going to say router.post on edit post, create our method, request, response, and we are going to say post.find1 and update. And we are going to pass it a query of the request.body.post ID, and also we need to pass it the things we want to change. So we want to say that the title should now be whatever the request.body.edited title is, and the message should be whatever the request.body.edited message is. And there's a typo again. All right, edited message. And after it does that, we want to say dot execute, and then dot then, and what do we want to do? Well, we want to load all those posts again, just like we keep on doing. So let's go ahead and get that. Paste that in there. So we want to post.find all of them, all the posts, except this time we just want to render the index page with all those posts. And then we want to say dot catch at the very end. And if we catch any errors, we just want to res.render the index page with an error of there was an error saving the updates to the post. Save. Alrighty, so there we go. And let's go ahead and check it out in our browser. We can go here, let's just delete everything that we have in our database so far. And so that way we're starting fresh. So let's create something. And we want to say title, we want to say title 1 and message 1, submit, and there we go, it's created. Can we edit it and change this both to 2? And yes, we can. So let's create another one, and let's say title 3 and message 3, and submit. There we go. Can we edit it? And title 4 and title 4, and submit it. And still title 3. Title 4 is updated. Okay, so let's check out what's going on. Find one and oh, that's the wrong method there. You want to type find by ID and update, and that should fix that. So let's reload this, and we have 4 and 4. Let's delete both of them, so we can delete, and let's start over with title 1 and message 1, submit, and let's add a new one, title 2 and message 2, and let's edit this one to say title 1, update it, and let's edit this one, fingers crossed, title 2, update, boom. So now we can update the correct ones, we can delete them, we can create them, and there you go. So congratulations, your first real Express app, and we went through the live real process of creating this app from scratch and went through all the errors that we ran into and typical ways you can fix those, like the pug where we were trying to iterate through something before checking that it actually existed and trying to compare two things that weren't alike. This was an integer and this was a string, and sometimes you have to think like, okay, what could possibly be going wrong here? And here I've run into this problem before where when you pass an ID in, it's an integer, and when you're iterating through it in Pug, it turns it into a string. Weird thing, but it's just one of those things. And so you try this out, and there you go, we got that fixed. And we got our indentation errors fixed. We got errors in here fixed when we typed in the wrong methods. And you just have to go through your code, read it, debug your code. That's one of the best parts of programming is debugging your code, figuring out what's wrong, solving problems, and creating awesome things like this. So obviously this is a pretty simple application, but just from this concept right here, I tried to introduce as many concepts as possible where you can take this and create your own things in the future. So I hope to see some things you guys create, and go ahead and send me a link to those so I can check them out and see what you guys do. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, go ahead and like and subscribe if you haven't. It helps me out a ton to keep creating some, and I have more tutorials planned for the future, and I can't wait to get those out there. So I'll see you guys next time. Thanks. Bye.